Hello and welcome to the OTK Vidcast. I'm sorry, but I'll have to apologise in advance because Jason is not here today. But it's okay because you got me staring at my new eyelids with my new HD webcam. Thankfully enough for me. So I want to introduce you to the rest of the people on our panel at the moment. First of all, we have Dom, who personally he'd probably have this changed to the DOM Vidcast, but unfortunately we can't have that happen. So Dom, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm not too bad. It's a nice, overcast, cloudy day here in Canada, which is probably the norm. I think the sun's run its course now, and it's probably winter time. 3 days we had, 3 days of sun, and that's it.
That's two more than we get.
Yeah. To be fair, we've had quite a few days, in my opinion. But okay, he's already had a word in because he can't help himself. But we've got the button monkey. There he is, Mr. Danny. How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm currently in mourning because the mighty Carolina Railhawks got beat 2-1 by Indy 11, the bloody Splitters. Not happy.
Not happy at all. Okay, and finally we've got the underpaid, overworked, talismanic... Oh no, wait, John's not here. So, Chris, how are you doing, mate?
You missed out overweight. I think what I might do for this OTK is I'm just going to pop these on to hide the horrible bags from underneath my eyes from a stag do I attended last night. But other than that, I'm very good, thank you. Now that joke is done, I shall remove them.
Chris, you're not 21 anymore, mate. You can't handle that many orange juices and back it up the next day.
Mate, J2O and orange juice, mate, I was on the deck. Seriously.
Right, let's try and steer it towards the aim of the podcast, shall we? Sorry, Vidcast, Jason might kill me. So we'll start off with the area of defensive midfield, which to be honest has been quite an area of contention throughout the summer. There's been arguments for having Coquelin as our sole defensive midfielder with Arteta signing the new deal. But I've given a bit of a task to Danny in discovering sort of other defensive midfielders options that could be out there and what his opinions are on Coquelin actually being the starter next season. So go on, Danny, give us a shot.
Well, I think first of all you need to get a pen and paper and you need to write down and see who is, how you figure out what is a defensive midfielder, because personally people would go automatically, you think the likes of Vieira and Yaya. Well, Yaya isn't anymore, is he? Because he's more of a, if anything, he's an attacking midfielder when he wants to be. And then in the old days, you used to have Mascherano, who was a defensive midfielder for West Ham and Liverpool, goes to Barcelona, and now he's a centre-back. And I think the days of the out-and-out defensive midfielder are very far and few between. I think the only true one that I can think of is the likes of Coquelin, who really is someone who doesn't want to part, doesn't want an assist, doesn't want a goal, and is quite happy to sit there, break up play. And I think the model people should be looking at is the Gilberto, someone who is a defensive-minded player. Gilberto didn't give a shit about scoring goals, although one season I think he did score about 7 goals for us, because that was mainly from corners, because he used to get up there. But then you had like Petit, another player. Was he a defensive midfielder? Was he a box-to-box midfielder? Was he a central midfielder? This question can never be asked. So I think it changes from player to player. Like I'm a fan of the Schneidlin. Now the Schneidlin scores goals, sets up goals. He makes runs into the other box. Does that make him box-to-box? Does that make him defensive? I mean, Flamini, I don't think he's ever been past the halfway line, so I suppose he would be a defensive. So all these people shit in the bed about keeping Arteta and keeping Flamini and keeping Coquelin and having no other world-class players allegedly coming in. I think wait and see. We can all have a guess and see what's going to happen, but none of us know for certain what's going to happen. Schweinsteiger, he used to be quite a defensive midfielder, and now he'll be good for 7 or 8 goals a season. And so he's off the table now, and it's rumoured that Man United are still after Schneidlin. And then Kondogbia, well, he's already gone to Inter Milan. He'll be on loan to China next season because he'll fail there because they're just buying every single player they can get hold of. I think it should be called the Mvia factor, and how many players are going to be Mvia'd, if you can pluralise the someone's surname. So I really don't know. I mean, personally, I'm happy with it, and I know John was left us a message saying that people need to stop shitting the bed over the likes of Arteta signing a 1-year deal. We don't know what he's going to do yet. Whether he's going to come in and do what he did at Everton, he may not have the legs for it, but I don't think the defensive responsibility is going to lie at Arteta's feet all that often. I mean, Coquelin is young enough to be able to play every single game next season in every single competition, including the League Cup, and play with some reserve and under-21 games as well. He will want to play and play and play, partly to prove a point that he wasn't, because he's made his debut in the 8-2, didn't he? So he's going to want to try and get as far away from that as he can with as many superb performances. I don't want him to score a single goal. I would rather him get sent off than get a goal, because that means he's doing his job. Is that enough?
No, happy with that. If we move on to like targets and stuff, have you got any if you could bring in a defensive midfielder of your choice if you thought it would improve us, who would you have? Like, there's so many options, but who would you pick?
I'd go Schneidlin just because he's.
Yeah.
I just worried there because my screen was showing we weren't broadcasting, but I'd refreshed the screen and now it is. Yeah, I'd pick Schneidlin because I think, although we know that Coquelin's going to be the man for us next season, we want someone who's going to come in and play more games than not. And I think Schneidlin can play as the holding midfielder, as someone who's going to get forward a little bit more. And I think those two could be brilliant next season. But also we've got the likes of Ramsey and Wilshere coming in. I don't think we need anybody. We have had one glaring problem for the last 3 seasons. That was Szczesny in goal. That was solved by Ospina, and now it's been doubly solved by Cech. So if we only sign a check and that's it, I'm more than happy, and the title is ours next season. If we manage with the magical Shad Forsyth and his wizard sleeve, I'll be happy because we will win the league if he keeps everybody fit. So I don't want anyone, but if I had to pick one, Schneidlin, just so that Dom will be permanently erect.
Okay, we'll throw it at Dom then in that case. And like, what are your thoughts on that sort of defensive midfielder, box to box? Like, do you think one or the other, or a player can play both, or even not at all? Like, what's your thoughts?
Well, you only have to look at what Arteta did. He wasn't a defensive midfielder when he came from Everton, but the manager knew that he had the football IQ to basically do whatever he was asked to do. And I think that's, you've got to give Arteta a lot of credit for doing that, because there are certain players, Alex Song, who probably got told, this is your role, and in one ear, out the other, and goes pissing off up the pitch and trying to, play these magical through balls every 5 seconds. Turned it over a bunch of times. Once every 24 attempts, it pays off, and he looks great. But I think that I agree with Danny a lot on the actual sort of, what are you classing as a defensive midfielder? What are you classing as a box-to-box midfielder? For me, it's just about seeing qualities in someone and asking them to play a certain role. The thing that I found most interesting with the Coquelin situation is that you can tell that the manager in recent seasons hasn't been a big believer in just having a non-technical, non-passing type of person there just to break up play. He's always preferred a very sort of gifted technical player back there. What I think the Coquelin thing done, and that's why I think that Coquelin never got a chance before it turned out that everybody was injured and we had to bring him back more so as a bit of an emergency than anything. And even then, there were stories of that he wanted to be a central midfielder and he got told that his passing's not up to scratch. So hopefully, if anything, what Coquelin's taught us as fans and the manager as well is that just what kind of value you can get from a player that is focused on when they don't have the ball. Because there's two sides to every, like someone on Twitter, I can't remember who it was, but they made the comparison between Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho, where Pep's saying if you have the ball, you control the game, and Jose says if you don't have the ball, they'll force them to make mistakes. So you've got two very different football philosophies, and I think Arsene very much lies in the camp of if you've got the ball, you control the game. So he's always preferred a player there that's very technically gifted, where I look at what Coquelin brings to the side, and we don't ever sit here and say, oh, when we're in possession, Coquelin's fantastic. We always sit here and compliment what he does when we don't have the ball. And it's such a big part of Premier League football now, where teams like Stoke and Swansea and these lower sides are picking up some very talented footballers that can play football now. And I think that it's even more important to have a guy back there that's got the athleticism to do what Coquelin does. Now that's where I like Schneidlin, because I think he's got the athleticism, or even a Bender or someone like that, but they also have probably a little bit more quality on the ball than what Coquelin's got. So that's where I look at Arteta. It's never been an argument for me that when we've got the ball that he's not good enough, because his passing's unbelievably good. It's when we don't have the ball that's the issue, and that's where Coquelin's come into his own, and it shows just how much of a difference it's made in that second half of the season when we went on that unbelievably good run and we were beating teams like Man City away from home. He was a huge part of it, and he was providing his most sort of pivotal moments in the game when we didn't have the ball. So that's where I'm looking at somebody that doesn't necessarily need to go bombarding up the pitch. And you can point at those types of midfielders and say, but they're not a defensive midfielder. You don't necessarily need the pigeonholed defensive midfielder, but I think that if we were to go after someone, it is going to be somebody that has a combination of Arteta's passing ability but with the athleticism of a Coquelin, and they're pretty rare to find.
Yeah, no, I completely agree on pretty much all those points. And I was talking about Coquelin as like a player who he does have the quality to be a really, really good defensive midfielder, but it is the question mark about him going forward. Can he pass the ball? Can he do things in the final third, which we haven't had in the past with players like Gilberto and Vieira, who could go in the final third and make goals. But I had a little discussion on Twitter yesterday with someone about how even if we were to bring in someone, and Chris, I'll move on to you in a second, about how if we brought in a defensive midfielder, either that be Vidal, doesn't look likely, or even like the dreams players like Javi Martinez and stuff, players of that sort of quality, like would Coquelin still start in that defensive midfielder position in the first game of the season? I mean, Chris, what are your thoughts on that sort of side of the argument?
I think he would, because I think Dom made a couple of good points actually, as he always does, bastard. The whole concept of Coquelin kind of is almost like, as Dom was mentioning, it's almost like he was forced on the manager, and it was almost like a situation where we hadn't really played with a quote unquote defensive midfielder. I'm so getting bored of this DM. Oh, it's doing my head in. But anyway, let's just call him a defensive midfielder for now. And I think he was kind of forced on that decision, and he's been, whether you respect or agree with how it came about, it's come about and it's worked brilliantly. And I think he's always maintained, if you go back to his whole managerial career at Arsenal, he's always said, I will not kill, quote unquote, kill players that he believes in, that he wants to give a chance to. So I think that, yes, he might have been a little bit sacrificial on the goalkeeping side potentially, but I think that's a whole different kettle of fish. He's wanted Czech for years, whereas this sort of defensive midfield position, Coquelin has come in, he's one of his own youngsters that he brought in, he's nurtured, and he's come in and taken that space and made it his own. I don't think that he would ever be dropped. In fact, I think a lot of the team will actually be based around Coquelin being one of the first names on the sheet next year. I think the only games you might see him sort of relegated to the bench, if you like, is obviously the cup games. I think you'll probably see him not playing, depending on the opposition. And if there is an alternative brought in, and for the record, I mean, just to throw my hat in, I don't think that what we need is another Coquelin. I don't think he needs quote unquote competition, because I do think that Bielik is going to be that man who's going to be groomed for that, and I'm not for a minute suggesting that he is the right man that we should be relying on, because none of us have seen him. So, unless he turns out to be another Fabregas, which we won't know till we see him, I think it's a hell of a lot to put on a young player who we've never even seen play for the first team. But it's pretty clear that he is almost the next Coquelin in waiting. I think that's probably the plan. And with a player like Arteta sticking around, too many people have just been very quick to jump on social media and whatever and slag off the decision. I think it's more than just a contract about him playing. It's as much a contract about his leadership, his behind the scenes, and his ability to bring on players in training, particularly those youngsters who are bringing through. Even the Dan Crowleys are going to learn from a player like Arteta, because as Dom touched on, he's played in several different positions and he's made them his own, as has Santi Cazorla, don't forget. So no, directly to answer the question, I don't think Coquelin would be dropped for anyone, unless one of the aforementioned that you mentioned before, a Javi Martinez, a Arturo Vidal. I mean, even a Vidal, I don't think he would play instead of Coquelin. I think he'd play alongside him. I think he would be your other Santi Cazorla. But yeah, only a quote unquote big name would displace Coquelin, and even then, I think the manager, just being the way he is, would favour one of his own over a name, if you like.
Yeah, no, I agree on those points. And as you say, we're getting a bit sick of the DM talk at the moment. So, Chris, while I've got you there, I guess we'll move on to the other area of the pitch we'll talk about, which is strikers. And we've been linked with so many in the recent days, especially with this a bit of a dream guy for many people being Lacazette, where we've been heard things like he's favouring certain tweets, which is a bit weird. You never go off social media for anything, but some people get a bit excited by that sort of stuff. And then obviously you get stuff saying where the president's come out and says stuff like, "We don't know anything could happen," sort of thing, when it used to be so certain he was going to stay. So go through some targets, talk about Lacazette, and your thoughts on whether we actually need a striker.
Well, I have it on good authority that we are actually going to sign every player. They're all done deals, and we're just waiting to announce it. So that's the end of the story. No, it's ridiculous. I mean, obviously, I'd say I've been busy this weekend, so I haven't really followed a lot of the rumour mongering and whatnot. I've seen a few of the deals that have been done and whatnot, but that favouriting tweets and all that, if that's true, if that's what people are basing this lack of rumour on, I mean, seriously, people need to really get outside and enjoy the sunshine a bit, because that is just absolutely moronic. I mean, that's the equivalent of me going on Twitter and favouriting a post about puppies and everyone going, oh, speculation is he's going to buy a puppy. It's bollocks. If you just like a tweet, you can like a tweet. We did the same with Czech, didn't we? People were saying, oh, the photographer's there, so it's a done deal. It's like it was a done deal for the minute it got leaked. Everyone knew it. To say basing it on a tweet is just madness. For the record, I mean, other targets, the Lacazette one, however erect that would make me, and trust me, it would. I still don't think, I've said this on previous OTKs, I don't think it's a goer. The sort of money that they would want is going to be a big fee. I'm not convinced. I think the only way it could happen is if Theo Walcott suddenly said, I'm not going to sign a new contract. I think if that happened, there's a possibility. An out centre forwards, yeah, who's available? I mean, you look at the options. Higuain is openly out there and being flaunted around. I don't know if you saw a tweet from Messi Minutes, but they quoted that the Napoli president, whose name escapes me, De Laurentiis, I think it is, he apparently was caught on audio suggesting that he wishes he could sell Higuain, so they're obviously looking to get shot. I know Dom's not particularly a fan. We'll probably get his views on that in a second, but that's one option. There's the talk of Cavani being sort of mooted around again. Not 100% sure that would be a goer, just based on what PSG are looking to do. Zlatan is obviously their centre forward, and Cavani does want to play through the middle, but Zlatan won't go on forever, and there's still talk that he might even end up at Milan. So I can't see that one being a goer. I know OG was talking about, other Jeff was talking in the group where he was saying, well, if they sign Di Maria, there's a space potentially for Cavani to move on. To a degree, yes, but only if Cavani's not played through the middle, and I think he will be played through the middle a lot this year. Whereas they've got Lucas, they have potentially Di Maria would essentially replace Lavezzi, who's going to move on. So I don't think that one's a starter. I might be wrong. If I am, we'll see. Only other sort of candidates, really, there's a lot of talk about a player being converted into a striker. We've talked about Draxler from Schalke. They're obviously after Xherdan Shaqiri, which would suggest that there's movement there. And there's also still talk of Marco Reus, who can play the sort of the Suarez striker role. And there's still some stuff floating around as well about the oh Christ, the other names escaped me. Who was the other person that was Götze, Mario Götze, who Arsene Wenger has openly said he absolutely adores as a footballer, and he wanted to sign him before Dortmund moved him on to Bayern Munich, and that was only a monetary decision. So I personally like Götze, and I think he would probably be the one that's gettable, but he's nowhere centre forward. He's nowhere big enough for a start, so I can't see that one. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rumours going around. I'll throw to Dom just before I do, if I may. I think a lot of this is going to result in the domino effect, and I think that's what's going to happen. There's a lot of talk that Man City have agreed £49 million for Raheem Wobbly Arms. I mean, that is absolute madness. But unfortunately, English players go for ridiculous money, and I think if they get him, I think that will start a chain reaction. There's talk of Dzeko going off to Roma, so Man City are going to have to strengthen big time. Liverpool will go and spunk all that money on Matt Jarvis. Nod to Jake there. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of money floating around. Man City of FFP have been allowed to go and spend money. PSG the same. I think the Sterling deal and probably the De Gea to Madrid deal, maybe even the Schweinsteiger deal, I think things are starting to move now. And over the coming probably next 7 to 10 days, you'll probably see quite a lot going on. Dom, why don't you give us your views on Higuain and anything you want to add to that?
First of all, I find it interesting, like you brought it up, Chris, where you say, the manager has been noted as being an admirer of a certain player. Yeah, we were after Götze, but then what happened since then is we've added Cazorla, Alexis and Ozil to our side. So, at the time of him saying that, sure, we may have needed him, but right now, that's why I can't see that particular deal happening, because I look at the side and think, well, where does he fit? So, he's made mention of liking lots of different players in the past, and then say like the Fabregas situation's a good one. He turns around and goes, well, I've got Ozil now, I don't need him. And we know that the guy, you know, is a good footballer. So sometimes I guess you sort of look at when the comment was made, what we need at the time, and what we've added since that comment too, because he might have gone, well, I like Goetze, oh, wicked, I've just managed to get myself an Ozil, even better. So then he's not going to be interested in Goetze anymore. Higuain, look, he scored, 18 goals in 37 games in Italy, and Giroud managed 14 in 27, 10 less games and only 4 less goals. I think that Giroud gets severely underrated with his goal-scoring ability, but not only that, he is also really, really good with his set-up and link-up play. We know how important he is to the way that we set up our forward line. So for me, going and spending the kind of money that Napoli would want for Higuain on a guy that's no better than the main centre forward that we have doesn't make any sense to me. I always like to have different options. I don't know. I just don't think we need a forward as much as perhaps some people think we need a forward, purely because I think that we could play Theo. Well, actually, a striker. I'll say a striker because I think we could get a wide forward, because the striker situation for me, I think you could go with Giroud, Theo and Welbeck, but then I think it leaves us one short on the wings. And for the people that are sort of having a little bit of a chat in the box about Theo's contract situation, it sounds to us like it's, you know, pretty much done. Sometimes, you know what Arsenal are like, it could have been done like the Arteta one was, and it just takes them a long time to announce it because of their PR and how they go about doing things. And the fact that we're not hearing absolutely any rumours of him going anywhere would probably suggest that it's a pretty much done thing. So we could probably safe to assume that Theo will be in our lineup for next season. So I don't know what you think about our forward line situation, Danny. If you were going to buy a position, where do you think that it would be in the forward three?
I'd have to say wide left, because being a wide left player is such a niche position, and I don't like to see players play out there like Ramsey has been played there every now and then, and Wilshere has been played there, and I just think it's somewhere where we need to be so important. We need to be able to balance up having someone who can play on the right. And I know, like this season we've had, or last season we had Sanchez playing on the left, but I personally think Sanchez could do as good a brilliant job on the right-hand side. Then I know it's never going to happen, but the ideal player to play on the left to complement the rest of him would be Bale. You know, he's going to be leaving Real Madrid sooner rather than later because the fans don't like him. He's getting nothing but grief there, but I think the only stumbling block is the amount of money they paid for him. Well, they paid best part of 100 million. There's no way that we're going to pay that kind of money for him, and so maybe they'll try and get him off the books by doing the loan thing, where you go, like they have just done with El Shaarawy, where they've loaned him out for a season and then with an option to buy, because then it gets them off your wages book. But that's the kind of thing we're looking at. But yeah, I think we'd have to go for someone on the left. But like you were saying, I don't really think we need anybody out front, because we've got Giroud, which can play one type of football, and Walcott that can play the other type of football. If someone like, I'm just looking through the list of players that we've been linked to. Well, Martinez has already gone. Lascette would just be an absolute dream, but I think he's going to stay loyal to Lyon for a season.
For fuck's sake!
What did I say?
Lascette.
Oh, just you know who I mean, though.
Mm-hmm.
Alexander, and El Shaarawy looks like he's off to, is it Monaco? You're laughing
El
at
Shaarawy.
El Shaarawy.
Oh,
What do you think about Aubameyang as well?
a boomerang. I think if we bought him and he'd only just go straight back to Dortmund. A boomerang.
Sorry.
I wouldn't want him. I think he's. I know we would. People who have seen him play go, this season he was rubbish. Well, this season he's been injured a bit and played out of position, and last season he wasn't playing up front because they were playing the Polish Andy Cole by playing him out there. So I think this season, if they play Pierre-Emerick, there you go, up your bum, on his own up front for Dortmund as a main striker, then you'll see the best of him. But I personally don't think we need him. He's not our kind of player. I mean, but Benzema, it's been anywhere from they've got a buyout clause of 67.4 million, or the Daily Star said it's going to be 35 million. Then Metro reported last week that it's going to be 17.8 million.
Oh, it's definitely true then.
You might as well just ignore them. But I'm just looking through the other one. Patrick Roberts of Fulham for 10 million. I mean, I've never even heard of the player. Munir El Hadji of Barcelona. Never heard of him. Eduardo Vargas, I think that was on the back of having a decent Copa America.
Danny, can I mention Munir? Just quickly.
Yeah, of course you can. I'm just seeing if he's already on here.
I have heard of
Yeah.
him. He's excuse me. He's a huge talent, but it's another one that I really don't. I think Dom's right. I don't see us going in for a player who's a project this summer. I think we've got one in Bielik. I don't think we need to be going in for projects. We're going in for world class. And Munir he's kind of like Hesse at Madrid. Not as good, granted, but he's kind of in that mould, playing off the front man, and he's a huge talent, and they think very highly of him. But I just can't see us going in for another project this summer. And the only other one that I wanted to dispel, there was talk about Faizu Ghulam.
I hate when you mess names up.
Oh God, fuck off. Yeah, and apparently Monreal go to Bilbao for 7 million. Honestly, some of the crap that people make up.
Who did you say that bloke's from Napoli?
Yeah, for Ghulam, left back, can play both full backs, but the talk is we want to get him and sell Monreal, which is utter poppycock. I'm sorry, but it's just lazy crap.
Oh yeah, £11 million the Express. That's the only one that I've read so far.
Sorry to cut in, but yeah, Munir is a he's a real talent, but the manager obviously wants to give Sanogo a chance, whether you think that's right or wrong. And we've got Chuba, your favourite, Danny.
Chuba.
Yeah, Chuba. What is it? Apcom. So yeah, I can't see us going for another sort of nippy forward stroke central attacking midfielder in that guys, but he's very, very good. But I think he'll go on loan.
Where's Draxler's best position? Is it wide left?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Schalke have played him in behind the front man as well, but I mean, to be honest, Draxler's such a good footballer and such a good athlete. He can play anywhere across the front three. He's almost sort of Alexis, which is another reason why Dom likes him, because he's a big, hulking, great athlete, as well as he's a bit more robust than a Royce would be. So you could arguably switch him and Alexis on wings each game.
We want,
yeah,
like
exactly.
the old Perez and Lundberg days.
Schalke do it with.
This is probably a good segue to the wide forward discussion.
Go for it, Dom.
Well, the reason that I like a Draxler is obviously he's a fantastic young footballer. At the age of 21, he's already debuted for the national team, which is the German national team, which isn't easy to get into when you look at some of the players that play in that position. About 2 or 3 years ago, I think, that he made his first team debut. And you look at someone like Oxlade-Chamberlain, who's probably similar in terms of age and appearances for us. Draxler's got 29 goals, 29 assists in 160 games. Oxlade-Chamberlain's got 14 goals, 14 assists in 102, 103 games or something like that. So for me, he's that in between. He's very much more of an attacking threat and a goal-scoring threat than a Chamberlain. But he's not so one-sided like a Theo that he will leave the fullback exposed, where he's just all about the goals and assists. So he's got those midfield qualities as well as being able to get forward and attack. But the other reason that I like him is, like what Chris said, is that I like the fact that he's got a bit of size about him and a bit of movement about him. So for me, Tom knows this as well, the dream would be like a Thomas Muller, because the guy is just an unbelievably talented footballer. He's plays in the right position. He's tall. He's athletic. He's a goal scorer. The other players that I look at in that same kind of mould are your Royces, your Bales, even an Andre Schürrle. Those guys that are, 6'1", 6'2". Robert Pires was 6'2". Having something a little bit different is always good, because it just gives defenders something a little bit different to worry about. Whereas if you always have an Oxlade-Chamberlain, Alexis, a Theo, a Gnabry, that's all we've really got on the wings. And I think it's nice to have some options, because your small, tricky wingers, they're not necessarily one-trick ponies, but at the same time they can get bullied around a little bit, and especially in the Premier League when it's a long season, a long physical season, I think it's nice to have a different option. So I'd be after someone like a Draxler or a Royce. Obviously would be the big name in that position, but Draxler being 21 and coming into his prime as a footballer under someone like Arsene Wenger and a team like ours, where there is a bit of a German contingency, then I think that it would make a lot of sense. But I don't know what you guys think about that position. What do you think, Danny?
Yeah, I was just replying to someone who was asking why we can't put this on. Can we put this on iTunes? I was just explaining this isn't. Although we're all ABW people, this is Jason Schrader's stuff, and he doesn't have an iTunes account, and is just doing this over the summer for something to do because we weren't doing it, and the damn fine job he's doing too. So I wasn't really listening to what you were saying, which doesn't help the situation at all, does it?
I'll jump in on it then.
Okay.
So, as Don said, I'm quite a big fan of the wide forward position. That's personally the position I think we need to strengthen more than any other. As Don said, Thomas Muller is the dream for me. He's just a perfect player. He's physical, he scores goals, he gets back, his work rate is insane. And he just does all what you need for a midfielder a wide forward midfielder who just will get back, get forward, score goals, assist goals. And yeah, I can't say anything else on the matter of Thomas Muller. There are many other players out there that I do like. I'm a big fan of Valencia's Rodrigo, actually. He's actually just signed from Benfica on a permanent deal, but I think we missed a bit of a trick with him if we'd have brought him in a bit younger, because he's very talented, very fast, very tricky, and he does score goals as well. There's another player who's at Real Madrid who was on loan at Villarreal last season, which was Cheryshev. He's a Russian guy. He's being linked with a £22 million move to Liverpool at the moment, actually, which is a bit strange. But yeah, that's another name. But in terms of the actual position, I think we just need someone to add goals. As Dom said, like, you can put a striker up there who's going to score 30 goals a season, but at the end of the day, we both agree on the fact that I think Sanchez is only going to score between 12 and 15 goals if we brought in a 30 goal a season striker. If you add goals and creativity into the attacking midfield options, especially in the wide berth, then you're going to add more goals to the strikers and aid in your other midfielders as well as everyone else on the pitch. I just feel that position needs to be made a priority above all else. I think we're pretty set in everywhere else. We've got a defensive midfielder in Coquelin who I have a lot of faith in. Maybe past, if you weren't going to get in a wide forward, the defensive midfielder, box-to-box sort of transitioning midfield place would be where we go next. But I think we're setting the right back by a long shot. The centre backs are pretty sorted for me. The left backs, as Chris mentioned, Monreal going away is stupid because he's been playing excellent for us. And then you look at Sanchez, Ozil, we've got a perfect number 10. Santi Cazorla can play at 10. Ramsey could even play at 10. Oxlade-Chamberlain could even play at 10 if we needed him to, even though I prefer him in a more deep position. And then with strikers, I think we can win the league with Giroud. I mean, his goal-to-game ratio is perfect. So I can't fault anywhere else in the team. So I think we can talk that area to death, to be honest, about transfers. So hopefully the guys in the chat box are going to provide us with some questions. Carl Walker has asked, the fight for goalkeeper spot, mostly about Czech signing. Is he a nailed on number one, Dom?
Yes. By an absolute country mile.
Yep. I'm not even sure that they'll give Szczesny anything other than a few League Cup games because he's that much of a clown, and teach him a lesson. Yeah.
Chris, can you put your 2 pence in?
Yeah, with the guys, I think the bigger question is who's going to be the number two. Number two. You know, is Ospina, who's sort of made sort of flirty noises and just pulled his shorts a little bit to the side to Everton. Or
showed him a bit of cheek.
Just showed him a little bit of helmet. Or is
how about Martinez? I think that's a big thing about that. Whether he stays or if he stays,
he'll go on loan.
Really?
100%. Yeah, there's talk already that there's at least 6 European clubs that want him apparently.
Yeah.
So
you bring up a very good point, Danny, because that's the exact reason I don't give a shit who gets that number 2 spot, because I think Martinez is going to come through and end up taking over from Czech when Czech leaves, because Czech's got 5 years in him.
Yep,
I don't give a stuff about Szczesny and Ospina at the moment. They can fight it out all they like.
I'd actually like to see us keep Ospina as the number 2 and get Szczesny on loan at a club where, with a manager who's not going to take any shit. So somewhere like Everton, I think would be the worst case scenario because Martinez is quite relaxed. I'd like to see him go on loan to somewhere almost like Stoke. Stoke need a goalkeeper, don't they? Oh, actually, no, they don't. They've got Butler.
You're not gonna, if Mark Hughes tells you to do something, you're going to fucking do it, aren't you?
Yeah, but I mean, somewhere
Chelsea
somewhere
looking to buy a backup goalkeeper, aren't they? Who was it they're trying to buy?
They got Begovic.
He's actually gone there now.
Yeah, and Stoke have got, like Tom said, Stoke got Shea Given.
And they've already got Jack Butland as well.
Shea Given's 53. He's not going to be their first team choice, is he?
No, but he'll be back up. They got
He did
Butland.
all right in the cup final. Even though he conceded 4, he still pulled off some pretty good saves for a 40-year-old keeper.
I could imagine a Chesney. I'd like to see him stay in the UK because I think European football would just be a bad idea. Chesney on the continent, Christ on a bike. But I think even like a newly promoted club where he's going to get an awful lot of action, a Bournemouth or a Norwich, somewhere like that. Just literally to get him games, even if it's to Christmas, and say, look, we'll give you your 15th chance to make right what you've cocked up. But I think Ospina. I mean, obviously, if Ospina wants to play and the offer comes in, fine, he'll go. That's understandable. I think it's harsh, but that's understandable. But the argument of is Czech number 1 or number 2. I liked his quote when he came out and he said, "Oh, if I am picked as number 1, I have to work for my spot." I was like, "Fuck off! Come on, Petter. You might be number 33, but he wouldn't have signed for us if he didn't have some sort of not guarantee, but affirmation that he would be the choice." So no, it's more about who's going to be number 2. I would have thought.
Yeah, no, I do think so. I'll ask a quick question. There's also people in the chat box if you want to answer this as well, because it's pretty much one word. But if I go through the group and just ask you, who is your signing of the summer of other teams in the Premiership besides us so far? Dom, have you got a name in your head? We'll start with you.
I got nothing.
Yeah?
Nothing's really impressed me all that much.
No? What about Sterling to Man City?
Look, there's obviously cruel. a fair bit of joking and stuff about that, but you got to remember that Man City at money isn't an option. They don't give a shit. So yes, they've overpaid, but it's nothing to them. So they've got a player that they wanted that's got potential. He's I don't think that he's any better than an Oxlade-Chamberlain, to be honest, but he's definitely a player that could go places and could end up being a fantastic player for them and add something that they desperately needed. So you never know, but I still wouldn't. I'm not jealous of the deal. I didn't want him. Again, another small, tricky winger that they've already got. Navas, Silva, Nasri. They've already got a bunch of them. I don't know why they're adding another one.
Yeah, fair enough. Danny, have you got a personal favourite or anyone else who's signed for someone?
Yeah, I've got 2. Kabaye to Palace is going to be amazing, shamazing even, or kabazing. No, that doesn't work, does it? I'll give up for that. He is going to run that midfield, and I didn't realise that when his last season for Newcastle, he scored about 7 or 8 goals, and in his season and a half for PSG, he scored, I think, 2 or 3 goals. They just played him out of position the entire time, and for 12 million quid, what a player. I think he's only 28, 29, something like that.
He was terrible at PSG.
Well, PSG never played him properly, did they?
Because there's a reason for that, because he's an arrogant shit who didn't take his career seriously, and he had every chance, and he was out, and they'd rather play Rabiot or Verratti, obviously, and he had every chance, and he never took any chances. There's the reason he got dropped from the French squad. I agree with you.
Why did Newcastle want him then?
Well, because his
level... Why did Palace want him?
His level is Newcastle Palace. He'll do really well there, but he's not a top, Don't forget, this is the same Johan Kambaye that Arsenal fans were desperate for us to sign 12 months ago. Funny old world, isn't it? No, nor was I, Tom.
I quite liked him. I thought he was a half-decent player.
He'll do well at Palace. You're spot on. Sorry to interrupt again.
Oh, the other player I think is going to do a fantastic job is Nathaniel Clyne at Liverpool. I've put two Southampton. That's wrong, isn't it? It's from Southampton on our web page. Yeah, but I think he would do brilliant there because they need someone who can actually kick a ball at right back rather than someone who's covered in tattoos and looking at reflections of himself in the wonky eyes of the dirty Scousers. So they're 2 players. I think Nathaniel Clyne's going to go on to be a future England right back.
No.
Or left back, whichever one. I always get him wrong. Playing goal, I don't know. What do I know?
I actually think Clyne's a good signing for them. So. A very good player, but Chris, I know you're itching to interrupt someone again, so go on. Who's your player?
Well, somebody's actually real Josh Dorr has stolen the one I had, but I'll chuck in another one. Delafeu at Everton, that's a smart bit of business. The guy is class. Everton needed a bit of injection. I think he's the right guy. Akib has also brought out Geordie Classy, who looks like he's going to be the Schneiderlin replacement at Southampton. That's good business. But I'm going to pull one completely from left field, and I can hear Jason laughing from Wales as we speak. Divock Origi will do very well for Liverpool. He will do very, very well. A lot of people mocked him, and there was that vine of him missing the open goal. Ha, 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 hilarious. The guy is very, very talented. If you think of how good Danny's favourite, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, was at his final season at St Etienne, Origi is probably as good, if not better, technically. He's very quick, plays on the shoulder. And people seem to forget he was playing in a very, very poor Lille side, and was expected to pretty much carry the burden of their entire front three on his shoulders, and it was too much for him. I think if Liverpool play him in the right position, which they won't, of course, but if they do, and they find a front three of sort of Firmino with maybe even Origi through the middle, flanked by Coutinho and Firmino. Coutinho and Firmino, that's going to be annoying. I do think that if Brandon Rubberlips plays him correctly, he could be a real star. And say if I'm wrong, I'll hold my hands up quite happily. But I think he'll do all right, as will Eder at Swansea, who's another one I've been mocked for, but I think he'll do very well as well. So I've given you 4. I do apologise.
No, I agree with that. I think Eder is, as I said to you, they're collecting players with long dreadlocks at the moment, with Gomes, Semnez, and now Eder. But no, my personal one is Dimitri Payet at West Ham. I think that's a really good sign.
Great shout.
As well as they signed Ogbonna the other day, which I was quite surprised about as well. So they've made some quite intuitive signings. Danny's highlighted for me that I think his name is Freeb Lee Site. Is that right? I want to say that right. Freeb Lee Site. His question is, assuming that there's 3 people fighting for that spot in defensive midfielder next season, with Koch, Flamini and Arteta, or possibly any other signing that we bring in, who would be your 1, 2, 3? Danny, we'll go with you first.
As in with, do you say, I'll just put another question in here from Luca. As in Arteta, Flamini and the Koch.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's got to be. Well, I think I would actually like to see Arteta play a little bit more in the Ramsey or Wilshere role, get forward a little bit more, show us what he can do in his twilight years or twilight year. So I think I would have, and depending whether you're playing home or away, I always got the feeling that Flamini played better at home. So it'd definitely be the Koch as number 1 the whole time, and maybe get Flamini to play as just the holding defensive midfielder. Again, that's debatable what that role actually entails. But Giovinco's had a hell of a bloody game. He scored a hat-trick, hit the post, had a goal disallowed, and then just put it through for Delgado to make it 4-3 for Toronto. Come on, sorry. Yeah, so it'd have to be between it would be the Koch. The Koch would be Coquelin when we need him, and if he can't play, then Flamini, because I just want to see Flamini get some more games in the League Cup, or maybe every now and then, and Arteta playing as a more attacking player, because I still think he's got the vision to be a half decent central midfielder when we are not playing Ramsey or Wilshere there. So there you go.
Okay, Dom, I'll move on to you, and I'm going to throw Bielik into that situation as well. As who's in free site as well, who asked the question. That jumped in with that as well. Would you put Bielik in that top 3 of our defensive midfielders?
No.
No?
17, 18-year-old kid, he looks like he has to run around the shower to get wet. He's that skinny. He's going to get absolutely smashed in the Premier League. So he's going to... Look, he's a prospect, but that's the thing I've kept saying. Look at our squad. Look at what it would take. Look at the kind of quality player it would take to bring in to displace any of our starting 11. We're not in a position now where we need to bring in backup players or that we need to look at 17-year-old kids to come in and make an impact into our side. We've got plenty of cash. It's evident that teams like Crystal Palace are buying Johan Cabaye, that there's money. Every team's got a bit of extra cash now. I don't think we need to be looking at those types of figures as players for us to bring in. I think it's a mentality that we've been used to because we've had financial restraints for so long. Look, I'm not saying that we can go out and spend 100 million like Liverpool will spunk and that Man United and Man City will, but we don't need to rely on what we've got or let's make do. That mentality for me should be out the window right now. So that's why I personally don't think Arteta and Coquelin are good enough between the two of them for us to win the league. I just don't, because I want to be proved wrong. I want Arteta to somehow magically get some athleticism back in his legs and be able to run around the pitch and do all the things that Coquelin can do, because I fear for what will happen if Coquelin gets injured for 6 weeks, because 6 weeks is long enough. That's just a grade 2 hamstring tear, which is pretty easy to do, and that's at the wrong time of the year. If Arteta's not on his game or he's injured, because I have absolutely no confidence in his body whatsoever, the calf injuries that he's got, he is injury prone. So you're talking about, relying on an injury-prone 33-year-old guy that didn't even basically play last year to be the backup in one of the most important positions on the pitch. To me, I just can't see how that's going to work. But I guess, fingers crossed that I'm proved wrong, and fingers crossed that I'm wearing orthopaedic shoes and I stand corrected.
And Freebly Site's made another good point about he's not been included in the. This is Bielik, not been included in the Singapore pre-season squad either. So that's, I guess, another sign that he's not yet quite in Wenger's plans at the moment. But Chris, our friend of the pod, Berkan Wonderland, Luka Kolakusic, has asked us about Wijnaldum. I mean, I don't know how much of the Dutch league you've watched, but what's your opinion on that signing?
Oh, Tom, don't ask silly questions like that. You know exactly how much Dutch football I've watched, as much as every other football in the world, because I am sad and have no life. So, fair bit. Wijnaldum, I like him. I think Newcastle's probably a good fit. The only issue I'd probably have with him is Newcastle are very much a kind of a club that I don't think they really quite know what they're doing at the moment. They've also been linked with Alexander Mitrovic, who would probably be a good buy. But Newcastle strike me as a sort of club that are just kind of buying people that don't really seem to have too much of a plan as to where they're all going to go and who they're all going to fit in. Obviously, we have to see how good Steve does. But don't forget, Steve will have known all about Wijnaldum from when he was in Holland. So, there's probably a link there. He's a talent. I think he'll do all right. It's always a tricky one, the Dutch league. For everyone that you get that works, there's 5 that don't. So the quality in the Dutch league is not the highest. And Rio Miyachi has proven you can go to Holland and be a superstar and then be not very much. Matthijs Kesman, Pierre van Hooijdonk, see above. But I don't know. I think Newcastle's the right club. Time will tell whether he's another Vernon Anita or whether he's a Mark Overmars, slightly different player, of course, but no, I think it's decent business for the price they paid. It's probably market value, and I think he'll do all right. I don't think he'll do as well as Jordy Classy will, though. He's a player I really, really like.
I've rated Van. He's quite a pacey player for a sort of a central guy, isn't he? He plays quite central. He's kind of Depay light. I mean, he's not your winger. He's kind of your number 10, but he's not like the sort of guy that's got searing pace, but he's got quick, tricky feet. He's kind of Santi Cazorla, but a bit more frame and a little. He has got a little bit more pace than Santi, but he's that kind of player. And he's been kind of PSV are shedding a lot of their assets, and he was one of the key. I think I don't have the stats to hand, but I think from memory he set up a fair amount of Depay's goals last year as well. So their link would have been good. So it just depends on how quickly he settles in. And actually, to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, Freebly Site asked about Depay and whether I rate him. Sadly, yes, I do. I think the guy is going to be fantastic. I think he's at the right period of his career. He's at the right age. Dare I say it, he's at the right club. I think he's the player that United should have signed when they bought Di Maria. And I really do think Depay will be fantastic. He's strong. He's very quick. He's got fantastic vision. His pace will destroy people. I genuinely think Depay's that good. He could end up being what Suarez was for Liverpool. I hope not, because that will make United a real force again. So I hope he smashes his Achilles in the first game of the season and we don't see him for the rest of the season. But no, I don't really. That's harsh. But yeah, I think he's very, very talented. That's slightly annoying, but I guess you've got to do with it. So, Danny, is there any signings around Europe that's niggling at you a bit?
Yeah, you didn't ask about the Wingen one, did you? Fucking hell, the young bloke at Dutch got a Newcastle. Did you talk about that already?
Yeah, that's what I've been talking about for the last 10 minutes.
Okay, I did see that. I wasn't actually looking around and tweeting from all the accounts, and I can't read and tweet and post the questions. Any other players that Ciro Immobile, I just typed in there, that was for us lot to talk about. Not that we've got anything else to do this time when we're vidcasting. Sorry, Jason, if you're listening, which you will be. Okay, I've been keeping Jason informed of how it's going, and he says thank you very much, everyone, and he'll be back soon. That Ciro thing, I mean, where he had one decent season playing in Italy when he was a top goal scorer, and then it annoys me when people go, oh, one person's had one good season, let's go and spunk an absolute fortune on him. He goes to Dortmund in a completely different league, does fuck all in that league, and then they go, oh, well, we're going to do with it now, we'll ship him out again. I think far too many players and teams in the Premier League have done that. It's like you've got those two players whose names almost sound like Jumanji, is it? Gone to Southampton, or some name that sounds like Jumanji.
The fullback. The central striker. Juanmi, that's the Badger.
Yeah, I can never say their names properly. But there's so many players. I call it the Van Wolfscock syndrome. Like the other one I'm thinking of, the one that's gone to Stoke, that Joselu from Hanover, for $5.5 million. Never heard of him. How's he gonna go from doing average in German football to going and playing in the Premier League?
He'll be alright with Stoke.
Was he ex Real Madrid, Joselu?
Yeah, him and Bojan came through the same youth academy.
Yeah, and the one at Southampton is from Malaga, Jumani. Another one, £5 million. I mean, they could turn out to be right, but how dare you? But it's all these players that they go, oh look, they've had a half-decent season in one league. Let's go and spunk an absolute fortune on them and hope they turn out. And like Ricky Van Wolfswinkel. When Norwich were back up in the Premier League a couple of seasons ago, the season they went down, he scored on his first game of the season, didn't score again for the rest of the season. He was on so much money, they had to loan him out to some Portuguese team, I think they did, just to get rid of him. And too many players do that rather than looking down into the lower leagues. And you've seen the likes of the bloke at QPR, the big English forward, what's his name?
Austin?
That's
Charlie
it,
Austin, yeah.
Charlie Austin. You look how well he's done. He's come up from non-league. I know those sort of players are few and far between, but I think Premier League teams need to spend a little bit more money buying players from even the Championship. Like Darren Bent has had to go to Derby in the Championship to get a game. And you watch Derby next season, they're going to absolutely ruin that league. All the players they've bought. Like Wiseman, he's another brilliant player who's far too good for the champion. Wyman, Andreas Wyman.
Did they sign the Three Kings as well?
They did, and they bought them some myrrh and a berm. And I told them you can't give a baby a berm, but they were not interested.
Can I just pick you up on one thing there, Danny, just very briefly?
Only the one.
Just the one.
I'm surprised it's only one.
And well, one thing with a brief thing that actually I think Tom you can talk about because I know you're quite keen on this subject as well.
Hugs for Tom.
Hugs for Tom.
About him.
McCoy's. You totally thrown me now. The point you made about Dortmund, Immobile.
Oh yeah.
It's a little bit more it's a little bit deeper than that. He didn't settle in Germany at all. Apparently his family were unsettled. He didn't settle, and it was more about the player as much as anything. And Sevilla have taken him on loan. And I just wanted to get Tom's thoughts. I don't know if Tom's got anything to add on this. Sevilla are the model club of how to run business-wise. I mean, the money that they've got for the players they've shifted,
Reyes,
and back for
fuck all.
Ramos. I mean, the list is endless, but the players that they've brought in young and shipped on. I mean, it's almost like the model that we used to do and still do to a degree. But some of the players they've shifted, and they just keep on replacing them with better and better players. Bakker will be the next one. Tom, did you want to add anything on?
Yeah, no. The Spanish league in general is really, if you take away Barcelona and Real Madrid, in terms of selling players on the money they get for them. When in terms of the actual league, besides Real Madrid and Barcelona, they don't have that much money. So to be able to sell players, like you brought up Sevilla as an example, when they sold Ivan Rakitic to Barcelona, they got so much money for that deal, and that sort of stuff. And then for their youth systems, you look at Valencia with like Gaia coming through, who's going to go for an amazing amount of money because he is very, very talented. I'd take him in an instant for Arsenal. But just those sort of clubs. And then you look at Athletic Bilbao, who only buy players from the region that they're based in, the Basque region, and to be in the top league with only buying players from that area, I don't know how they've done that. But somehow they've got away a bit. Like you see the links with Monreal because he's from the Basque area, so that's why they were able to bring him in. And like when you think about the talent they brought for in Aduriz and Llorente going off to Juventus, has he done that much for Juventus? No, he hasn't done much at all. So Spanish league, other than the Premiership, is my favourite league. I like to watch the teams in that. I'm a personal Valenciano. I've got a little soft spot for Villarreal, so I'll enjoy seeing them in the Emirates Cup in later this month. But and like Luciano Vieto, who went off to Atletico, I think we missed a bit of a trick with that guy because he's very talented.
Hugely talented, yeah.
Yeah. There's my 2 pennies on La Liga. But I wanted to move on a bit because although it's the OTK, it is nice to refresh yourself for a bit, not just about transfers, slightly linked in a way, but when we're looking at, and I want to get all your opinions on this, but when you see players like Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard and Andrea Pirlo moving off to the MLS to finish off their careers, we've seen last year Thierry Henry retiring from the game. You look at players like, we see Schweinsteiger coming to the end of his career going to a shitty team like, and the rest of them. But is this, Dom, I'll come to you first. Are we starting to see like an end of an era of such in football with the likes, as I said, of Gerrard and Lampard, all that going off and finishing their careers? Is it time for change?
It seems to be. I mean, those guys were obviously part of that sort of golden generation-ish when it comes to that. I guess you could throw like a John Terry type person in there, as despicable as he is, but you know, he's, yeah, like you said, you lump those guys in together, and you kind of look around at the moment and you think, well, who are going to be the next crop of players that are at that kind of level, those pretty much one club players that spend a lot of their career at the one team with having success, and they have good leadership on the pitch and off the pitch, and it's hard to see that many guys around now. You take Gerrard out of the Liverpool side and all of a sudden Jordan Henderson's now the captain. You look at our team and you look at the young British players that we've got. I don't think Jack Wilshere is captain material right now. I think Aaron Ramsey needs a little bit more time to develop before he could take over that role. There's, looking around the league in general, there's not a whole lot, and I think it's a lot to do with the fact that so many of those players that you just spoke about came in at a time where there probably wasn't as many international players bought into the Premier League as what there is now, and buying and selling players was probably not quite as big business as what it is now as well. So, quite often you'll see your good young English talents, your Jack Rodwells and your Scott Sinclairs, their careers get ruined pretty quickly if they see dollar signs in their eyes rather than loyalty. And I think that's the big issue here, is that loyalty seems to have gone out the window, a la Raheem Sterling, and people aren't prepared to stay and like the old Tony Adams stories, basically just signing whatever contract was put in front of him. Those days are long, long gone, because managers and agents and things get involved because there's so much money to be made. So it's definitely a changing of the guard, and I'm not sure that we'll see that many of those types of characters in the Premier League anymore, which is a bit sad, regardless of the fact that, they're from rival sides, and it's our job as Arsenal fans to not like them. It's still nice to have those characters in the game.
Yeah, no. It is. You look at it, like, I remember, like, when I was younger. I mean, me being younger, the rest of you guys probably being like, still in the middle ages of life, but like collecting all those match tax cards, all those soccer things that you used to have, the stickers of the Premiership, and you were like, yes, I got Gerrard, or I got Lampard, I got a 5-star striker, and all those sort of things that everyone used to do. And now you look on the kids and they've got like Jordan Henderson, like, yes, I got Jordan Henderson, and I'm turning around in school like, you got Jordan Henderson. But yeah, like, Chris, when you see like players like Carlos Tevez is now going to finish his career in Boca Juniors and stuff like that, and like, are you sad at this sort of like age of football coming to an end?
I don't know. I'm not really sad. I mean, like you say, I think it affects you more, or it affects your opinions more when it's a player of your own club. Like you say, when I think the simple fact is I'm getting old and it sucks. Because like in sort of 10 years, I'm going to be that guy going, yeah, do you remember that David Beckham bloke, or that Thierry Henry bloke? And it's going to sound like they're from years ago. So, no, it doesn't really make me sad. I mean, Gerrard and Lampard are gone. That's 2 less bellends in the Premier League, so that's a good thing. And Pirlo, I suppose, to a degree, is the one, similar with Kaká, because it's 2 real sort of top players that have gone. Tevez, I think, was always going to go back to Argentina. But kind of how you touched on before, it's a new era now. We're seeing new sort of exciting, fresh players. It might be worth actually asking Dom on this, and I'll throw to Dom if I may. You're arguably seeing the evolution of the game itself, because essentially there are better, bigger, stronger, more powerful athletes coming through, and much the same as when we kind of changed the spectrum with a Patrick Vieira type of player. I think the more young players that teams are signing up are starting to become even better and even more sort of honed athletes. So that might change the game, might even make the game more exciting. Whereas a sort of a Gerrard and Lampard's time, maybe that's passing, and we're moving into a new era of athletes. Dom, you wanted to make a point, and I don't know if you've got anything to add to the athletes element of it.
Yeah, two things on that. You're spot on, because you look at the way that football has evolved, not only just in the Premier League but across the world. So you've got these guys that are getting into their sort of mid-30s, where maybe back 10, 15, 20 years ago, if a footballer was in their mid-30s, their knees had started to go. Physically they just weren't up to scratch anymore. Like Tony Adams stopped, not because he wasn't wanting to keep going, but because his body was just shutting down, and he decided that to call it quits. With sports science and technology and rehabilitation and recovery and the stuff that goes into it these days, you're much more capable of playing at a decent level for a lot longer. But the other thing you've got for these guys is you've got other options. So every time Danny loses his rag about players not retiring at the club, so therefore they're not legends, I always giggle, because not everybody's ready to retire. Look at Robert Pires, for example. He wasn't ready to retire. He still felt that he had a year or two of football left in him. I'm sure he would have loved to have been able to retire at Arsenal, but we're too good. We didn't have that luxury to keep him around and let him play out his days there. You've got to be an unbelievably talented player to retire at a club these days. Gerrard couldn't do it. Lampard hasn't been able to do it. So you look at the other options for these players out there now, where they love playing football, believe it or not. That's their number one passion, and if they think they've got another year or two left in them, and New York City come calling, and David Beckham's been over there, and the game's becoming quite big in America, and they think, yeah, why not go over there for a couple of years and finish off? That's the other side of the coin as well, is that you've got the fact the game's growing, but you've also got the fact that these guys physically think, well, maybe Premier League football's a bit of a stretch, especially at these top four clubs. I don't want to stab my club in the back and go to a rival, even though Frank Lampard did that, or go down and play for a mid-table to lower table side for a year or two. They're not interested in doing that. So that's where they've got options to go overseas and play a couple of extra seasons, whereas 10, 15 years ago, those options probably didn't exist. So there was two parts to that physically maybe at 30 to 35 they weren't able to play on, but also there was no other options for them anyway, so it was a lot easier to retire at a club as a legend, I guess.
The evolution of the game was probably the most main factor, and with the MLS growing as well, you won't see as many people being considered legends because they're not staying at their clubs, like you say. Danny, I know, as Don pointed out, you're a big fan of the retro. You're loving all those old players and the old traditions and everything. But are you what's your take on it? And also, what player makes you most sad that it's coming to the end for him?
Well, I think you have to look at a few other things. I do differentiate between the likes of Henry and Vieira, who stabbed us in the back for money, and the likes of Perez, who would have given his left leg for another season at the club. And Ashley Cole, for me, is a little bit debatable each way, because it was a matter of principle why he left the club. But there's some players that have recently moved. I mean, look like Casillas. He has done the right thing and gone, and he wasn't wanted at Real Madrid, so he's gone to Portugal, which is only 5 minutes away from Spain on the bus. And another club legend like he has gone. And look at another one, Raul. An absolute legendary player. He went to play for some German team. Was it Schalke? I know. I think he was at one of those. Then he went off to play in the Middle East, and now he's playing in New York for New York Cosmos, who the owner of this vidcast, Jason, played against Jason's team, the Rail Hawks, a little while ago. It says here the 17th of May, and I think Jason said that he was still on another level when he played, and they had Marcos Senna playing in that team as well. And then you've got other people like Steven Gerrard. He left because Rodgers doesn't want him. Gerrard could have stayed in the Premier League. He could have done 2 more seasons. It's like all great players. I mean, I hate the bloke. I'm not going to go into what he is, but like all great players, they move further and further back. You look like the likes of Lothar Matthäus and Ruud Gullit, players who are up front scoring goals like Gerrard was and like Lampard was. I don't know why I say Gerrard, it's Gerrard. And they slowly moved back and back, and Gerrard was, I don't think he was getting the glory at Liverpool that he wanted to get, and I think he was ready to take a pay cut, but then the club didn't offer it to him, so I think he was making a stand, and then ended up going, oh fuck, they actually ain't going to offer me what I want, I better go then, because he'll win the MLS and he'll go there and score goals, and he'll get bored there. They won't understand a fucking word that he says, and they'll have to get translators in, and then the little prick will probably come back and end up doing Sky Sports just to fuck me off. But another player who has stayed at a club for ages is Di Natale. He's I'm just looking here, he's 37, he's 38 in October, and he was going to retire 2 seasons ago, and because he was still banging in the goals, he went, no, I won't bother retiring, I'll play on. But then one of my other favourite players, who has gone on forever, is, oh God, I'm always going. Luca Toni.
Thank you, Dom.
The amount of teams he has played for, and he is still an absolute legend no matter who he plays for, whether he's in one country or another, and he's still banging. I mean, he's one of the top goal scorers in Serie A last season. He's got to be about 37, 38. Mm-hmm. But I think you've got to have a certain number of ways that you look at it. Like I was saying that Henri Vieira stabbed us in the back. Sol Campbell shit all over Spurs. He shouldn't have done it. I mean, as much as I hate him, what he did was wrong. But the players like Perez, and it wasn't his fault. He wanted to stay. So I think it is sad that those days are coming and that are going. But one other thing that I just wanted to say before, because I'm getting on a bit. Do you know the 4 players at our club? But you don't. I tell you, the 4 players at our club, you can probably guess, that have been there the longest: Rosicky, Walcott, Chesney, and Gibbs. Then in 5th place, Wilshere, 6th place, Ramsey. They're our longest serving players. Now, what does that say about football? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I just think it's interesting.
No, times have changed for sure. That's what it tells you, is that it's a business now where you buy and sell. It's not. I mean, you can try to build a side, and that's what we're obviously going for at the moment. But gone are the days where you can put together a side. And I think Arsene Wenger learnt this the hard way. Is that if you look at the players that we've sold over the last few years, with your Fabregas, Nasri, maybe not going back as far as Cole, but when he was building that side, if all of those players were still at the club now and had 4 or 5, 6 seasons together, who's to say that we wouldn't be winning league after league? And that's the thing that I guess he's probably had to learn the hard way, is that it's just so difficult to do, because players just want to move on, and agents get involved and convince people that there's a better deal around the corner and that grass is going to be greener on the other side.
There's also, Tom, just to come in on that, like, one of my mates is watching now, Rich. Hi, Rich. He's made the point, he's a big Plymouth Argyle fan, and it affects the clubs at the lower end as well, and the sort of talk of how business is moving on. Players that move on, take the big step up, can't hack it, or don't get the chances and have to move back. I mean, he's used the example of Paul Watton, who's a bit of an Argyle legend down here. He moved to Southampton. Didn't sort of get the games, didn't make an impact, so he came back, saw his contract out at Argyle, he's now a coach. So there are kind of players, I think it's affecting the lower leagues as well, where you often thought, oh yeah, lower league, there's a bloke who was there, he cleaned the boots, and then he became the kit man, and now he's the player, and he retires. I think it's not even happening as much at lower league anymore. So the game is just moving on, and like Dom said there, it's becoming a business, and it's very much a question of shit or get off the pot. If you're not good enough after a season or 2, you're kind of shipped out, and irrespective of whether you're a club legend, if the club, look at what Madrid have done, he used the example of Casillas, if they feel they can improve on you, you're kind of gone. And in a weird way, that might be what's happened with us and goalkeepers. I think it's just the way of the world now. Clubs have their favourites, fans will always have their favourites, but even in the example of Arsenal, if Jack Wilshere if we're offered 50 million for Jack Wilshere, please don't anyone be surprised if we sell him. It's just the way the world is.
No, yeah, the point about the lower leagues is important, because my local team, Gillingham, are in League One. They've been chasing this guy Aimer from QPR, who they had on loan last season, and it just shows, like, when you're bringing in youngsters from teams who are in the Premier League and stuff, that the older guys, and they've had a few older centre backs in their time, and they're just not getting a look in anymore, and they have to retire earlier than they probably would have liked, and it's a bit sad. So I guess we can talk the depression line to death. So we'll try and move it on to a bit more happier and more Arsenal pastures. There was a question asked earlier in the chat box from A4 Arsenal FC, I believe his name was that in the 2013-14 season, Liverpool nearly won the league by outscoring everyone, and in the 2014-15 season, Chelsea won the league by playing very defensive. Now, I have my own views on how Chelsea won the league, but in that way, Danny, we'll go to you first. He asked, can Arsenal find the balance between outscoring everyone else and defending properly in terms of their title challenge this season coming?
Fuck yes, 2 words. Sanchez, check, job done.
Elaborate a little bit more.
Well, like you need you look at Czech's history at Chelsea, and like I said last time, that people go, oh, he's on the wane because last season he didn't play much. Well, you get any of the world's top 10 goalkeepers and get them to play a handful of league games in whatever league they're in, and then do that for a season. Of course, you're going to be rusty because I think he played 7 Premier League games last season. He kept 5 clean sheets. He scored 5 clean sheets. See, my brain's going off in a different direction at once. I'm trying to rein it in, and then so that straight away. I mean, he is not going to fuck up half the number of times that Szczesny did. He's a professional. He's one of the best goalkeepers in the history of the Premier League. I mean, he's got to be in the top 3 with Schmeichel and Seaman, hasn't he? I mean, if you are going to name a top 3 that have been there, done it, and won it, he's definitely going to be one of those top 3. I mean, some may even say that he's better than Seaman was, which is maybe true, maybe not, but we'll see. And like Don was saying earlier, we'll get 5 solid seasons out of him, and I think he is the kind of player that's going to come in and he's going to help people. Like we know the story of one of the young goalkeepers at Arsenal, and he said Szczesny was all friendly with him, and then who told us that story? Was it you, Chris?
It was, yeah. It's Ryan.
Tell us.
Basically, it's somebody I know that knows Ryan Huddart's father, who's the young goalkeeper in Arsenal's books, and he's just telling him stories about how Szczesny was sort of all Johnny Big Bollocks and sort of willing to help him in training, but kind of off the pitch was a bit of an arsehole and a bit kind of full of himself. So, it just depends on the personalities. But yeah, that's as you just said there, Danny. Like Czech is going to be. He's more than just a signing that could potentially catapult us to a title challenge. He's an investment in the future of the club. Who knows, he might end up being a goalkeeping coach. You just don't know where these things will go. And obviously he's got a close friend in Tomasz Rosicky as well. That will help with his settling in process. And just having a goalkeeper of that much quality to train with every day, it will affect the defence. That's probably something Dom can touch on. When Dom's made this point several times, when you know that you've got a world-class goalkeeper behind you who's probably only going to make 2, maybe 3 mistakes a season, how good is that going to make that defence? Mertesacker is used to having Manuel Neuer behind him. Koscielny's only going to benefit now. A player like Gabriel, a player like Callum Chambers, who's essentially still learning his craft. You can afford to risk those defenders because you know that if those defenders do make the odd error that they're going to make when they're young, particularly in the case of Chambers or Bellerin, when you've got a player like Petr Cech behind you, I mean, it's going to drive you forward, and it's going to improve the players that are going to be training with him day in, day out. And how he is, I think you touched on it, Tom, he's a winner. And you can't have enough winners in the squad. We've now got a squad of winners. They've won 2 successive FA Cups. They know what the taste for winning is like. Petr Cech will only add more winning experience to that squad.
Yeah, as you said, the winning mentality of a team is what wins you titles. And if everyone in the team is that cohesive in a way where they all want to win, they all know what they've got to do, they all know where the mindset, when you look at players like Ozil, just knows where the next player is going to be when he needs to play that pass, that's going to get an assist. We've got that quality now, which is what we were lacking in many seasons before now. And it's something which I think, personally, is the most important thing in a club, is the winning mentality and the confidence. Because mentally, a team has to be so much more stronger. You can have all the physical ability on the pitch. I mean, you can look at teams like Liverpool who were going to win the league by outscoring everyone. But at the end of the day, they bottled it. Because they didn't have the mentality to hold their own against the teams when it mattered. And we have done that in recent seasons in games where you look at Man City away. We had such mental ability to hold our game, to hold our own against a team that had thrown the kitchen sink at us and then take on chances when they came to us. And that's what wins titles. And I really think that we're moving up in the world in terms of that. And it's finally time that we actually get our due in terms of Premier League. And we can dream about the Champions League, but the Premier League for me is the one that I really want to get. So I want to start closing it out now. We've been going for over an hour. I'll ask a final question to you all, and I'm going to go for Danny. I'll go with you first for this question. Cech as a £10 million signing, is he more of an influence than Ozil was? You're muted.
Yeah, there you go. I was muted. But I mustn't have been muted in the first place then. Must have heard me talking. Oh well. Yeah, I think that Ozil, when he first came, was more of a hype influence, and then teams have been sticking 2 players on him the whole time, which has been freeing up stuff for everybody else. But I think you have to look for more than just what Ozil does with goals and assists, because he does so much other stuff. But I think Cech will have an immediate impact. You'll be seeing clean sheets, you'll be seeing fantastic saves, you'll be seeing him, and I wouldn't even mind seeing him being made vice-captain, or maybe even captain. Who's captain at the moment?
Arteta.
Yeah. So I suppose you can really come in and take those 2 out. But a lot of people always say in when they're pros, you don't need to be wearing the armband to be acting like a captain. He'll be at the back there shouting and screaming, organising his line. They'll be getting themselves all together in the pre-season tour, and he is going to do outstanding. And people are going to go, this is the kind of stuff that if Szczesny would have been doing over the last few years, we'd have been not finishing 4th every season. So yeah, I think he's going to be absolutely immense right from the start.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, Chris, I know Don's put his point of view across on this bit, but if we don't sign a defensive midfielder in the summer, are you confident we have enough with Coquelin, Arteta, and Flamini?
Yeah, yes, I am. Me and Dom sort of agree and disagree on this. We're sort of right on the middle. Dom disagrees with me that Arteta can get through a season comfortably and play the games that we don't really need the quote unquote the first choice 11. I won't disrespect those teams, but you know who they are. I do agree with Dom in that I still would like to see something else. What would interest me? I meant to touch on this earlier, but I didn't get the chance. But I think with Bielik, obviously he's not gone on this Singapore tour. You often see the first team go on these early tours, and then you see some of the youth play on the home games. I wouldn't be surprised if Wenger's got him in that squad in the home games to sort of see how he does in pre-season, and maybe with a view to use him in the Emirates Cup. And I wonder if that might be, it's not ideal because it means we'd be doing late business again, which I'm never a fan of. But I just wonder if he makes some sort of influence, will he be that third choice behind Arteta, Flamini, and maybe with a view to having him, and maybe that's what we think is enough. But to answer the question, I mean, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine if Coquelin stays fit, and I know this is Dom's argument, one smashed ankle or whatever, and we are back to where we were before when everyone was screaming for a DM. So yeah, I'm fine if everyone stays fit. I'd still like a midfield addition as an alternative. I'd still like a box-to-box alternative. But yeah, if everyone stays fit, and that's a big if, I'm comfortable with it. And yeah, I'm 100% happy. If Flamini ends up going, which I don't think he will, but if he does, or if we get an injury in pre-season, then no, we have to go and strengthen again. Or if the right player comes available, let's get the deal done.
Okay, yeah, I think we both agree on that point. I think in terms of our squad, I'm actually quite confident with the squad we have now to win the title. So that's just my view. Dom, final question. You've got all the spotlight on you. I know you love that. So I'm going to flick it to you about a pre-season sort of question. It's quite a good question for you, but in terms of like fitness and all this, how important are those pre-season matches? And we're hearing about all the intense pre-season fitness training that the players go through during the mid-season break or post-season break. What do you think is going to be going on inside the club pre-season? How important are those pre-season matches before the season starts?
For 2 reasons, they're hugely important, because you've got players trying to gel with each other, the manager using those games to try different things, to try different systems, tactical kind of stuff that I'm probably not all that qualified to speak about. But you've also got the aspect of the fitness side of it, where it's hugely important. That's why they are getting an absolute flogging right now, because what you can do when the season hasn't started yet is you don't really have games to worry about. So you can structure your fitness program, which is exactly what Shad Forsyth's been brought in to do. He's not a strength and conditioning specialist. He's not a physiotherapist. He is the head of fitness. So he basically sits down and writes out a complete plan for the whole pre-season, from top to bottom, from player to player, whatever he wants to do, they do. So he's got plans in place that there might be a strength and conditioning phase, and then it's going to be a cardiovascular phase, and there'll be some repeat effort work where they're doing a bunch of sprints over and over again, and then they're going to be doing some lactic acid threshold training and then some altitude stuff. I mean, it's just, and then what you don't have to worry about is going, well, if I push the guys too hard on a Wednesday, then they have to back it up and play on a Saturday. If they're still sore, there's risk of injury. You don't need to do that because you've just got weeks and weeks and weeks to put those plans in place. That's what he didn't get last season when he came in, because he came in after the World Cup where there was only about a week of pre-season left, so he didn't really get to put his plans and his processes in place. We've signed a strength and conditioning specialist, an Irish guy, who actually worked with Shad Forsyth before they went off to work for their national teams, where I think the Irish guy went to the Polish team and Shad Forsyth went to the German team. Which to me suggests that Shad Forsyth's basically handpicking his crew of fitness professionals now, which is a great thing. So what he knows is that he can get a plan in place that he is happy, where he's got a level of base fitness for each of the players going into the season, but he can also monitor the individuals, where what I think is coming into football a lot more, and it's surprising me that football's behind a lot of other sports, even where I'm from. In Australia, strength, conditioning, fitness is elite. Like, they're very, very sought after people when it comes to our education, that there hasn't been the individual training and development of each individual player as much as there have been in others. So, for example, you're not going to ask Mertesacker to run the same in pre-season as Aaron Ramsey. You're not going to ask Olivier Giroud to do the same amount of sprints as Theo Walcott, because they're different positions, they require different energy systems and different physical attributes. So then what Shad Forsyth's definitely come in and done, and I know this, is that he's come in and individualised their training a lot more and individualised their programming. And not just that, but it's the base level of fitness that you build through a pre-season that you take into the season. That's why it's always really, really difficult, and we saw it with Ozil and Mertesacker last season. When you come in late to a pre-season, you don't get that. You're coming in and sort of doing a half of a pre-season here or there, and it makes a huge difference to your base level of fitness going into the season, because once the season starts, it's extremely difficult to get to that level of fitness again. So if you do get an injury 2 or 3 weeks into the season, is nearly the worst time to get an injury, because you've got that base level of fitness. You should be about as fresh and as fit as you're going to be. And then if you get an injury and come back 4 weeks later, the season's up and running, and you've expected to not only train and get a level of fitness back, but somehow play on a Saturday as well. So that's why the pre-season is unbelievably important, and it's really, really good to see that we've strengthened in those off-the-field positions, like our strength and conditioning coaches and our head of fitness, and the whole program's had a massive overhaul. So this season will be the interesting one to see how that's worked, and to see if a lot of those plans that Shad Forsyth's obviously put in place in a lot of his systems, if they're going to work for a Premier League season, because we know they work for an international team and through a tournament, but let's see how he goes at putting one together for a 38-game season, because that'll be the interesting one.
Yeah, okay. No, that was really great. That was really good to get some insight into the pre-season stuff, where everything goes on. Our first pre-season game is, I believe it's at 1:30 in the afternoon in the UK, on Wednesday against the Singapore 11. I hope that's right. I don't know if you guys going to be watching it.
Yeah.
Where's it going to be? I mean,
BT, Arsenal player, won't it?
BT Sport, I think they're showing it as well.
Maybe, but these games all tend to be a load of bollocks. It's only really going there to try and get the locals to support Arsenal. Nothing wrong with that, but as an entertainment-wise, much like the Emirates Cup, it's just boring nonsense.
Good stuff, Danny. Thanks for that.
Oh, the old days we used to go to Barnet and we beat them 10-1. Now that was football.
We should also give a shout to BT, because it's because of them that John's not with us tonight. So well done, BT, you
Twats.
pack of bellends.
Try turning it off and turning it on again.
Yes.
Danny, quickly, Carl Walker's just asked, I know I'm trying to avoid the ABW stuff, but he's asked, when will the first ABW cast be?
It's probably going to be around the time of the Emirates Cup that we know of.
Okay,
Unless
there's that done.
we'll get abducted by aliens, then it'll be never.
Okay, so I know that Jason's been away, but you could say that the buttery biscuit base of our cheesecake has been missing, but I hope the filling has been good enough for you.
Buttery biscuit base.
Yes, buttery biscuit base. So that has been the OTK podcast. Chris, I know you're smirking away and I know why. Thanks for being on here, Chris.
That's right, mate. Can I just chuck one very quick thing in?
No.
Thanks.
Yeah,
The full 90 Guinea podcast, they're quite new, and I just wanted to give them a little nudge. I know we don't do shout-outs as such, but a couple of our guys that associate with ABW have been on, and it's really good, and I know they're recording this week, and if you haven't listened to it, a lot of people are asking for Arsenal audio in the summer, so until ABW's back, give them a listen. Obviously, when ABW's back, fuck them, but until then, give them a listen. No, they're very good guys, and it's well worth the listen. So yeah, give it a download. And Catherine was on last week with Drew, our blogger, and they were both very, very good. And the two hosts are very good. So give it a go.
I gave that a listen. It was very actually well done. I was quite surprised. I'll give a quick nudge to Gooner News TV. My friend Liam, he's doing also some Arsenal content throughout the summer that me and Danny have been on, and John as well.
Very good.
So hopefully Chris, I'll drag him on at some point as well. So. Hopefully that will happen in the coming weeks or so. Thank you for coming on. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I haven't been a taste down from Jason at all.
You've looked lovely, and thank you to the listeners for this and our own pod for donating all that lovely money. And it's already been showing signs of wonderfulness by they can now see you in HD.
Yeah, so all good. Very kind of you to send me that. Dom. Nah, fuck you. We're going. Cheers for coming on, Dom.
No problems.
So that was the OTK Vidcast. I assume we'll be back at the same time, sort of next Sunday. So I hope you can survive till then. Thank you very much for listening, and that was us.
No.